So what we discussed last time, for the past couple of weeks, we have been talking about, how in real life innovation is happening, right? We talked about ideation, we talked about business case, we talked about development, we talked about validation, and then we talked about launch, the different stages in the innovation process. And prior to that, we talked about, why it is important to have, management and everybody involved in understanding what the project is all about. And prior to that, we talked about, different types of innovation. So all these are giving you information about what is innovation, who is important, and what, different types of people are there and how it is done. So that's all well and good. So keep it aside. Now, when you get to the crux of it, you will end up calling these activities as projects, right? Innovation activities, you will end up calling them as projects. And one need to manage a project. And if you remember me saying in, I think first or second lecture somewhere, I have seen in my career again and again, companies do not fail because their idea on which they are going to work on is a bad idea. No. Companies do not fail because they have, unskilled or low, lack of talent. No, they have good talent, good skilled people. Companies do not fail because they didn't have enough money to run the project. No. Again and again, I've seen, and I want you guys to be very careful here because it's very important. It can make your career and it can break your career. Companies fail because they don't have the discipline to follow the proper project management principles. Purely. And I can give you many examples, real life examples, and this may not sound that serious to you, but when you get into the real workforce and when you see how things happen in a chaotic, unorganized, wasteful, non-value add type of activities, you will find out that how much resources are being wasted and how much people are working on things that you can see from your own eyes that it's going to fail. So please take project management very seriously. You can do whatever project in your life. You can do a textile project, innovation project, or a home project. Whatever project you do, if you follow project management principles, I can guarantee you the probability of your success in that project will go from, without doing project management, proper management, where only luck plays it, to a significantly higher amount. I mean, significantly. And by the way, that success means killing a project that doesn't make sense early on. So that's also one thing you have to remember, that killing a project is not a bad thing. It's not a failure. Killing a project is a success. You need to celebrate killing a project because you killed the project before it sucked a lot of your money and resources. You were able to identify that this project isn't going to go and yield me the results that I'm expecting. So let me kill rather than trying to work and make it work. Right? So keep those things in mind, that success is not the only criteria in project management. Killing is also another way of success, and it is supposed to be celebrated. Okay, kill faster. That's the whole motto here. Kill faster, kill sooner. All right. So when I say you have to be very careful in managing the project, the question comes up: what is a project? Can somebody give me, not somebody, I don't want that somebody be that one person always talking. I want some examples of project. What is a project?
So completing a particular task assigned to you.
completing a particular task assigned to you. Then why don't you call it as a task? Somebody gives you a task, you finish it. So why can't you call it as a task or task management? Why are you calling it as a project management? Why do you need to give a special name to that? Anybody else?
Hello, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Project can be defined as a particular activity where people or group of people come together to optimize the process control or to innovate a new product under a specific project which can benefit to society or can make a boost economy.
Okay, that's okay. That's one way to look at it. Let me see if anybody else have any other thoughts. Guys, please be quick. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. I want you guys to be engaged because I cannot wait for a long time for answers and then drag this lecture for 2.5 hours. What
So
is a project?
after carrying out the activity, when you get a particular outcome, we can call it as a project.
So if you don't get an outcome, what do you call that?
So success or failure can be a result, but we can name it as a project. Like we tried to do something, success and failures may be the outcome.
So whenever you try to do something, you call it as a project, whether it is a success or not. That's irrelevant. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
So then everything should be a project, right? You're trying to do something always, right? You get up from bed every morning. That's a project because you're trying to do something.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
Sir, if there is any problem and we work on it, and by making coming up with some people and we work on it and develop a new big solution for that problem, then this task can be this task to attend that product can be the project.
Almost there, almost there. So I give credit to everybody. Okay. I mean, I'm not discouraging anybody or criticizing anybody for trying to attempt to answer that question. You all had some pieces of that answer, right? It's very good. So end of the day, what project means is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or a service or a result. I took it from Project Management Institute website. So you can go and look for more information there, but temporary set of activities done to create a unique product or a service or a result. We all touched a little bit on each of one of them, right? Why it is temporary? Because you're not doing it every day. It's not ongoing forever. There is a specific start and there is a specific end. And there is a scope. Once you have achieved the scope or once you have done, then you are done. And there are only set of resources that are going to be utilized for this project. You don't have unlimited resources, right? So it's temporary in nature. It's not every day. So when I say it's temporary and it's not every day, that means it is not routine, right? It's not a routine thing I do every day. If you do every day, then it's not a project. It's a non-routine thing. It is unique. Not everybody can do it, or it's not part of your everyday life. And it has a single goal. The project will have a single goal. I want this outcome. So when somebody says, and somebody mentioned there's a problem and I'm trying to find a solution. So your goal is to find a solution to that particular problem. So it's unique in nature. And the scope is, I'm going to find answers to only this problem. And there is an expectation that this project is going to deliver something, which is called deliverables. And in order to get that deliverables, I'm going to need time, I'm going to need money, I'm going to need people. And sometimes you say, I'm going to need, machine, I'm going to need a software, I'm going to need, there are other things that goes into a project, which are called also resources. And resources are limited. They cannot give you an open check and say, go spend how much of money you want, go hire how many people you want, go take how much of time you want, but I want a solution. No, nobody is going to give you a project like that. People are going to give a project, say, okay, you have the X amount of money, Y amount of time, and here is the number of people that you can use in this team to get this problem solved. And most of the time, like somebody mentioned, most of the time, these people are not the same group of people. They come from different functions. They come from different background. They come from even sometimes different companies. They're not going to be the same group of people or like-minded people, I would say. There is going to be need, like, right, we talked about ideators and implementers and all those. That is one way of looking at the skills. Then people might be in R&D and HR and finance and that type of background as well, and function as well. So project is a temporary endeavor with a unique goal, set of deliverables or expectation, and limited time, limited money, and limited people. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, okay, I understand there is a project. I understand it is not unique. I mean, it's unique and it's not routine. I understand blah, 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 blah. Why should somebody manage that? Why do you need to
Complete in
manage a
some
project?
specific time.
Can you repeat that?
To complete it within the specific time.
So what you're saying is, if I don't manage it, it may not get done on time. Okay. Anybody else want to try another reason why we wanted to manage a project?
Sir, to complete it within the available resources.
Complete it within the available resources. Okay. Anybody else?
Hello, sir.
Sir, hello. Sir, there are certain boundaries within which we have to complete the project. We have certain pressures on us. We have certain limitations. That's why we have to manage properly.
So you operate within the boundaries. If you don't manage, then it will go boundaryless. Okay. There was another female voice I heard. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. To get the optimum result by making a proper use of time and resources, everything together.
Every one of those answers are right. Somebody wants to try something else? There's one more key aspect that I'm expecting. Yeah.
So to manage the risk of the project, like to ensure the risk. If risk management should be done.
What is your name, if you don't mind me asking?
So Sakshi.
Sakshi. Okay. Sakshi, you hold on to that thought. I'm going to come back to you in, let's say, in half an hour. Okay. That's a very important point.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody else? I'm still looking for one more thing. You guys talked about time. You guys talked about resources. You guys talked about boundary. You talked about
to achieve the particular outcome which we are expecting.
Can you repeat that? Your voice was not clear.
So to achieve our goal, which we are expecting.
Exactly. End of the day, you need deliverables, right? If you don't manage, you won't get the deliverables. It's one of them, not the entire reason why you need to manage. Yes, all of them apply.
Hello, sir.
Yep. Go ahead.
Sir, we need to manage a project in such a way that in project we have different aspects. So the perfect individual who is expert in that particular field, he should work for that one particular part. So we'll get maximum benefit of the project. So
that's
managing
kind of
this
resource management. Yes, what you're saying is I need to get the best out of this person for the contribution towards the project. So I need to manage it effectively. Perfect. Yes. Good. Yes. So what you're saying in the slide is all the reasons that you have said. It's non-routine, right? When a project is classified as non-routine, that means not everybody's going to know what to do. If it's a routine, everybody knows because you have trained people. You have told this is what you are supposed to do. Here's your job description. Here's when you come. Here's what you do. Here's how I'm going to measure your output. And here's when you go. Everybody knows if it's routine. If it's not routine, then people are going to be like, okay, tell me what I need to do next. How I need to do. Why I need to do. Why not me? So it's non-routine, right? So it has to be managed because people won't know what to do and when to do and how to do. Secondly, like I said, you don't have unlimited resources. You have to manage the budget. You have to manage the people. You have to manage the timeline. So when you work with limited resources, get the maximum out of them. Specific deliverables, right? Everybody says a project needs to be done by this time. It needs to have this blah, 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 blah. So manage the project to get the specific output delivered. Then uncommon resources. like I mentioned, not every time you're going to be working with the HR person. You might know the HR person during the interview process. Hi, hello, you got the job, and then you move on. It's not like every day you're going to say hi, hello to the HR person, get to know that person, and work with that person every day, right? That's it. So when a HR person comes in and becomes a part of the team member of this project, you have no working relationship or no knowledge about this person's background or interest or whatnot. So when people of different backgrounds and different interests come together, it is always difficult to have a one common voice. Everybody will have their own idea. Everybody will have their own opinion. Everybody will want to do this in a certain way. Then if you let the team figure out, then it's going to be, chaos. It's going to be politics. It's going to be, fights, and maybe everybody got together very well that they're now, partying, and now nobody's working. So you need to make sure that the uncommon resources are properly managed and they are properly brought together, and everybody knows what their role is in the project. Somebody have to do that. So that's why you need to manage the project. And then let's face it, end of the day, you will start a project thinking, here is the problem, here is how I'm going to do, I'm going to need this much time. All those things are, you're thinking about it. In real life, it doesn't happen that way. Things change every day. I mean, I get frustrated when I wake up because I'm in the night. I would have called my team in Europe, talked about something, and then I said, okay, this is what you guys need to do. Let's talk about it tomorrow. And then I go to bed. I wake up in the morning, entire thing changed because, life changes. There's no such thing as constant. So then you have to be able to manage that as well. So for all these reasons, you need to manage a project. Any question? Good.
No, sir.
So what are the ways people manage? What are the different steps? I mean, so you don't get confused here with what we talked about, the steps in innovation. Okay. In innovation, we talked about ideation, we talked about business case, we talked about development, validation, and launch. Similar topic, similar methodology, and similar understanding in a project management. Initiation, you have to manage how you initiate a project. If you don't manage, guess what? There's going to be new project coming in every day. Somebody will come and say, I need this problem resolved. I need this problem resolved. This is most important problem I want you to work. Somebody else will say, no, that's not most important. This is most important. So you need to find a way to manage how you start or initiate a project. That's the biggest problem that people like me face in our everyday job. Is everybody wants innovation team to work on something. And then my job is to, okay, everybody wants to work on your projects or problems. All right, let me see which one is going to give me the most bang for buck, or what they say, the benefit or return or an investment. Or let me see which one is most risky if I don't do anything. So like business case. So that's what planning phase is. So you need to manage the planning of the project, how you are going to plan. You cannot just say, okay, let me start the project and walk away and close my eyes and feel like everybody's going to do what I'm expecting and get it on time. No, you have to plan. Then once you have planned the project, you have to execute. A lot of times people do a good job of planning and then nobody knows who is going to be working. Yeah, you said you want this, you want that, you want that. I'm not going to do it. You only asked me how this project needs to be done. So I gave you my 2 cents. I gave you my experience. I gave you my talents, gave you my thoughts. But don't expect me to do that. You'll walk away. So you have to find out how to execute it, because a lot of people will give you gyan. A lot of people will give you ideas. Nobody will do it. So you need to execute the plan. And then when you say, here is the plan, here is the project, here is the plan, here is how we execute, you need to monitor and see if it's going in the same direction, in the same pace. I will tell you 99% of the time things will shift. You won't know where you started, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, the project is completely different project. People are working on something different. So you need to monitor and control, like, no, go this way. No, go this way. So you have to manage and control the project throughout the project phase. So you need to have tools to do that. And I will talk about that in a few minutes. Then, like I mentioned, you have to close the project. You cannot keep a project open forever. because it's a temporary activity, right? It's a temporary activity. It has a start, it has an end. You need to finish it. And the way you finish it is going back to what was asked in the first place. You asked me XYZ, I've delivered XYZ, I'm done. Let's close the project. Let's not keep adding to this. If you want something else to be worked on this, start a new project. So you need to find a way to close the project also. So remember these 5 steps when you work on any project. Put time in initiating a project, put time in planning a project, and of course execute the project, monitor and control throughout this process, and then find a way to put a stake in the ground and say, I am done. I'm not going to work on this project anymore. It is completed, closed. No more talking about let's do this, let's do that in this project. It is done. If you need something else done, go build a new business case so that this project can be reopened again. Okay? Good. Now, a lot of times in the companies or in the real world, you'll heard a word called program. Project management or program management. What is a program and what is a project? You guys gave me some ideas about projects, right? Give it a try. Give some ideas about a program.
Students participate in discussion.
So, can we relate program as like we know where we have to start and we know where we have to end, and that particular segment within the project can be a program.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to try?
Yes, sir. I think program is previously well designed and well defined. The program runners just follow the procedures and run the program. That's it. As in project, we are going to search. But in case of program, I think these things are not there. Only the following of procedure is the program, I think.
Hello,
Both
sir.
are not. Okay, go ahead.
That's it.
So project may be any single project, and program means it consists of the whole thing, like whole process. It might be. Yes, sir.
Okay. Somebody else?
Yes.
Sir, it is collection of many projects.
Consists of many projects. Okay. So give me an example of a project, real life example. Give me a real life example project. Just don't go super high and think like, oh, I'm going to solve, world problem. Just give me a simple example of a project.
So iPhone, any version of an iPhone is a project.
Creating a new iPhone is a project. Okay. And just give me high levels, what will be involved in that? Just give me high level. Don't spend too much time. Just give me high level.
So detecting what were the things missing in the previous version and adding on something new features in the latest one.
So understanding what is there, what is missing, and then adding new features. That's what you call as a project. Okay. Anybody else? What is a project?
A Mars mission that has been done before. It's nothing but project.
Mars mission. Mars mission.
Hello.
Yeah.
So project is an activity where a group of people focus on a single strategy or work, or they have common goal. Program may consist of different project, how to carry the project or scheduling of the project, or in program more projects can be concluded, but a single project is a goal of individual, a single goal of individual.
Coming closer.
Program may consist of many projects, but a single project can focus on only one important thing.
Exactly. Well said. So that's where I was going with is program has multiple projects underneath it. Okay. Program has a multiple projects underneath it. Every project will have certain tasks underneath it. Right? You see how it's all adding up? Every task will lead to a completion of a project. Finishing every project will lead to a completion of a program. So it's basically just hierarchy. Multiple projects form a program. Multiple tasks form a project. Understood? You can.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So give me, I'll say something like, I'm building a house. What is that?
So it's a program.
Can you explain why?
So because there will be different teams working on it, like a civil department will work, then an architect department will work, then the interior will work, and then electricians will work. So it's a group of activities kind.
Excellent. Right? Do you all agree now? A program is building a house within which you have a carpentry project, you have a civil project, you have a designing project, you have a painting project, and every one of those projects have different expectations, deliverables, people, skills, budget, time, and they all have to happen at a certain time so the program can be completed. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to paint first and then I'm going to, put the plumbing second. No, one has to happen in a certain way, right? Program is divided into multiple projects, and multiple projects are divided into multiple tasks. You guys follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And what happens in the program is you can look at what worked in one project. Hey, I talked to this guy, I explained clearly, and I told him this is my timeline, this is my budget. Then I asked him, how can he do that and explain in what manner he will do that. It worked for plumber. Okay, now I'm going to take the same best practice approach and turn around and give it to a carpenter. Clearly explain what I want, clearly explain when I want, clearly explain how much I'm going to spend, and clearly explain, and I'm now asking him to explain how you're going to get it done. And then I'm going to take the same approach and go to a painter, right? So what happens in a program is you get to see which approach works. In industry, they call best practices. This is how normally we do because it works. Then you take the best practice from one project and then you apply it to another project. It works. Wow. Okay, now you take the best practice from that project and put it in somewhere else and it works. So in a program, what happens is more and more best practices come up, and then now suddenly the entire organization will work in the same fashion. When a project is created, this organization functions the same way. When a project is closed, this organization is working in the same way because every project had done a good job of initiating. So I'm now calling that as a best practice, and I'm sharing that best practice with every project. So that's one advantage of having a program is with multiple projects is you can see which one is working, and that practice can be horizontally deployed to other projects as well. Just one third point. There are multiple reasons why people break a project or a program into a project and a project into a task, but I just want to give you a very high level that when somebody says this is a program, that means there are multiple projects underneath it. Okay, good. Now, people management. We talked about project. We talked about why we need to manage and what are the different terminologies people use when it comes to a project or a program. But then programs or projects doesn't get done by themselves, right? They're all worked by people. So somebody have to manage the people. When we say project management, it's done by a person. There's no software, there's no thing that manages a program. It's a person. What do you call that person?
Director.
Director will one who directs, will tell go like this, go like that.
So can you repeat the question, please?
The question is, what do you call the person who manages the project?
The project manager.
Simple, right? It's a project manager. He or she is called a project manager. Their job is to make sure team is fully aligned. The team completely know. So the program manager, project manager's job is to make sure project is getting done on time, right? In budget, right? Or under budget or on budget, or however you want to call it. Then use the best resources for the project. Then their job is to hire their job is to hire team members, but not a lot of times program managers or project managers don't hire people. They will use the best of the people that are given to them. Then they will make sure that everybody has a common understanding of the projects. What is the goal of the project? He should not go to a carpenter and ask what is the goal of the project, and he should say, oh, the goal of the project is we are going to build this house somewhere around 2022. And then the goal of the plumber is, oh, I need to finish it by next week. Then there is a discrepancy. Project manager or program manager's job is to make sure that everybody understands the goal, everybody understands the timeline, everybody understands their activities, their deliverables, their budget. So this person is a very, very, very important person of a project. They don't need to be a civil engineer. They don't need to be a financial planner. They don't need to be a HR person. And listen, this person doesn't need to be an expert in any one of these subjects. They just need to be an expert in managing the project. Be that center point. When there is a problem, carpenter has to run to this person and say, I have a problem. When there is a problem, plumber has to run to this person and say, I have a problem. When there is a conflict between an electrician and a plumber, this person will be there to solve the problem or resolve the conflict. So project manager or a program manager plays a very, very important role in a project. And a lot of time, projects fail because there is no project manager clearly identified. We just let the team, you go do whatever you wanted to do and you listen to whoever you wanted to listen. No, that's not how projects should be managed. You have to have a clear definition of who is the project manager. That person has the authority to utilize the resources that's in front of him or her, which is time, money, and people, and deliver the project deliverables. So I'm going to hold the project manager accountable. Hey, I gave you the money. I gave you the time. I gave you the resources. Where is my house? Right? So project manager is accountable, vital. Project manager cannot come and cry and say, oh, I'm telling whatever, I'm telling but the plumber is not listening to me. No. I'm telling the painter is not listening to me. No, that's not acceptable. Go find a way to have the plumber listen to you. So it's a very, very, very important role in a project. Project manager or program manager has to have strong skills. They doesn't have to be rude. They don't have to have a gun in their hand and say, if you don't do it, I'm going to shoot you. No, that's one way of people managing people. No, that's not the point I'm trying to say here. You have to influence people. Sometimes you have to use your authority. Sometimes you have to use your hierarchy. Sometimes you have to scare people saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you. Those are all part of how you manage a project, but then you cannot use that all the time. You cannot go to a plumber all the time and say, if you don't finish it, I'm going to fire you. Then that plumber after 2 or 3 projects, he'll say, this guy always, cries wolf. Right? So that's a project manager or program manager. Then each project will have a sponsor or a champion. Do you know who the sponsor or a champion of a project is? If you're building a house, who you think would be a champion or a champion or a sponsor?
The one who is paying for the house.
So what you're saying is a resource provider, right? Money is biggest resource for the building house, right? So a resource provider is called a champion, right? Most of the time, but not entirely. Project sponsor or a champion is the one who has the vision. They may not have the money. They may not have the money. They may not have the people.
Hello.
Go for it.
The one who allocated them the project or that particular task. Allotted them that project or the particular
one who
task.
allotted them the project. You can say that one who allotted them the project. See, so a lot of times people can allot. Anybody can allot project. You can come and allot a project. But do you have people? Do you have time? Do you have authority? Do you have, So a lot of time, top management leadership role are the ones who initiate or approve a project. Say, okay, all right, guys, let's go build a house. And here are the reasons. I'm going to provide you money. I'm going to hire an engineer and provide you that resource. I'm going to tell you how much time and I'm going to give you enough time to finish it. So this person is going to give you the time, the money, the resource, and approval and give the big vision. I need a house. Okay, so this person is not going to do the job, but they're going to provide the vision and they're going to provide the the resources, and they may sometimes when there is an issue that he or she may go and hold on one second. Hey.
Can I play right here? My toys.
You should not make noise. Sure. Okay. So sorry about that. Where it was sponsor or champion. This person is not going to work on the project. They're going to provide the vision, they're going to provide the clarity, and they're going to provide the expectation, and they're going to walk away. Understood? Now, who is a project owner? They call project owner in sometimes. Who is the project owner?
So the owner of the company or the owner, the contractor.
Most of the time, project owner would be the company owner would be the sponsor or the champion. That person is going to say, I want this done. They are not the owner of the project. They are just the visionary who's providing the vision or calling for, I want this done. But there is somebody called owner of the project. The owner of the project. Take the example of house, or don't think about company. Just take the example of the house.
So the contractor who is contractor who is building the house, because he's getting paid and he's getting benefit from the project.
But won't you call the contractor the project manager or a program manager?
Yes, sir. He will be the program manager, but he's getting benefits from the project as well.
No. So the project, the end of, I'll come to that point. The project owner is the beneficiary of the deliverable of the project. What is the deliverable of the project that we talked about? The house. What is the deliverables of that project?
The house which can be used.
The house. Who is the beneficiary of the house?
The owner who is paying for it.
You got the answer, right? End of the day, when the project is done, whatever the deliverables are going to be the output of the project, who gets the maximum benefit of that output is the project owner. Simple. In this case, who is the owner? You said the person who's going to live in that house, right?
Yes, sir.
You guys follow me? It's very important to know all these roles, because if you don't know these roles, then you will just get confused in a project. All right. Now, program manager, project manager, champion, owner. These titles and roles will not change for a project. From a start of a project and from the end of a project, that role is going to be stable, unchanged. But of course, if a project manager or program manager suck in doing their job, they get fired and then somebody else will come in. That's not the point. But once you have a project, these people or these roles are going to be stable. What changes is during one phase of the project, you will have certain type of people working on it. During another phase of the project, you have different type of people working on it. So the team members will be changing depending upon which stage the project is. The team members in the project will change depending upon what skills they bring into the table to the project. So the team will be evolving constantly. Right? Towards the start of the project, you don't need a painter. But towards the end of the project, you don't need a civil engineer. You see how it changes? The type of people working on a project on any given time will change depending upon the stage of the project. So it's important. Have any one of you have heard about RACI? They call RACI technique or RACI chart or RACI.
No, sir.
Okay. When you have to build a house, I'll give you an example. When you are building a house, you need to build the front gate. You have to fabricate a front gate. Who do you think should design the front gate?
So either the fabricator himself or the architecture who is designing our home.
Fabricator is not going to build it. He's going to say, tell me how you want me to build and when you want me to build, I'll build it. He's just a converter of your idea. He's not going to be held responsible, right? Are you going to go to the fabricator and say why the gate is looking like this?
Then,
I don't like the
owner.
Architecture.
So owner is what? Owner is what? Is owner responsible for that gate?
So, but all the parts of the house is designed by the architecture.
So architect is responsible for the design of the gate.
Yeah.
Okay. So RACI stands for responsible person. A stands for accountable person. C stands for consultant. I stand for informed. Okay. For any project or any task in a project, there is always going to be one person responsible, one person accountable, one person, I should say always, people can be consulted and then people needs to be informed. Four important role people play in a project or a task and a role. And a lot of times people get confused between what is responsibility and what is accountability. Right? People say, I don't understand what is responsibility and what is accountability. What is teacher's role? Is teacher responsible for students' grade? Do you think it's teacher's responsibility for the student to get their grade?
No, we can't actually consider this process because it depends on teacher to teacher. If a particular professor is good with his teaching and if a particular professor is not good, then it may vary, but at the ultimate thing, students are responsible for them.
Okay, so what you are saying is for the grades, students are accountable. No matter who the teacher is, it is the student's job to get the class understood and get the grades, right? So it's a student. So student is accountable here. Teacher is responsible in delivering the needs of the students so that person can pass or fail. You see the difference? Who is responsible? Who is accountable? And sometimes you consult with the people like me outside world. We come and teach some subject or we say, hey, do this, do that, and blah blah blah. So we are consult. Who needs to be informed? Whether you are good progressing or you're studying well or you're progressing, is your parents. Your parents needs to be informed. This person is going good in his or her studies, and so their progress is going against their plan. So you see how a grade of a student, you can break it into 4 parts. Who is responsible, who is accountable, who needs to be consulted or who can be consulted, and then who needs to be informed. So a lot of times this confusion between R responsible and A accountable is there. So what we have done is you remove the word responsible out and use the word resource there. Resource is people. Who is going to do the task of teaching? And then who is going to be accountable for getting the grades. So R change the responsibility to resource. Okay, just keep that in mind. Let's go to the same example of building a house. Now we all agree that it's a program because it has multiple projects underneath it. I'm giving you a hypothetical situation. A grandfather is saying, I have 25 lakhs. I'm giving it to my son, which in this case is your father or your mother. Let's say mother, or let's say father, however you want to call it. And then either it's you or you as a son or you are a daughter in this hypothetical situation. There is going to be obviously a building contractor, there's going to be a carpenter, there's going to be an electrician, there's going to be a construction worker, there's going to be a plumber, blah, 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 blah. You see that, right? Now you tell me who in this example is a sponsor or a champion?
So grandfather.
Grandfather, sir.
Does everybody agree?
Yes, sir, grandfather.
Who is the owner of the project or program?
So mother or father. Mother or father.
daughter will live in the streets?
No, sir. Actually,
grandfather.
as you mentioned, grandfather is giving them the amount to build their own house.
I
So
was just
mother or
teasing. I
father.
was just teasing. You got the answer. I was just teasing. Yes, they are the primary beneficiary. Primary beneficiary is a mother or a daughter, or mother or a father, and then the secondary beneficiary are son and daughter, because they will inherit the house somewhere or the other later, right? So you got project owner now. Now, who is the program manager?
Contractor.
Inspector, and
Contractor.
contractor.
Building contractor.
Ah, there you go. Building contractor. Somebody said inspector. No, inspector is not. He is not going to be held accountable for the program. If the house is not built on time, on budget, he's not going to be held accountable. Inspector says, my job is only to inspect. You're doing it to the correct codes. So program manager in this case is a building contractor. Then who is a project manager? Give me a project and tell me this person is that project manager.
Civil engineer.
And what's
He
his
is for
project?
construction, basic construction.
Okay, you understand, right? That was a nice song. Team member?
Electrician.
Carpenter.
Electrician,
Plumber.
Construction worker, plumber,
Yeah.
painter.
Yeah. Good. Now, non-team member.
So inspector and tax
assessor.
assessor.
Son and daughter.
Son and daughter. Yeah, it's actually, you know what? I give credit to that person. That's actually a very good, very good, example. Yes, son and daughter, they don't have a role in this project. They are just going to be beneficiary or secondary beneficiary, and they are non-team member. Very good. I love that. I mean, in fact, I didn't even think when I put this example. Good. Anybody else? Any other non-team members?
Tax assessor.
Tax assessor. He's not a team member. Anybody else?
So architect.
No, architect is a team member. He's designing the project. You're
So,
giving him, okay, tell
once
me
he's
how
done
the
with his designing, is
So
not a part of a
construction
project.
workers.
Nah, the inspector is a non-team member, because he's a government body. He just comes when the house is done and sees, okay, you have built it to the code, or you have built it to the plan that you submitted for approval. So I'm approving this, and I'm going to say it's now fit for occupancy. That inspector, not the police inspector. This is a civil inspector. You know, when you build a house, you have to get your plan approved. You say, this is how I'm going to build. Here is how many square footage. Here's my first floor. Here's my second floor. Blah 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 blah. And I'm going to have this much space outside, inside. And you give it to the local civil body or civil authority. They will say, okay, this is as per the norms or codes, and I'm approving it. And that person's job is just to approve. He's not going to be involved in how you build the house, or how much you're going to spend, or who are you going to hire. No, they're non-team members, but they're outside the project team members who can have a huge influence on the team project. They can come and disapprove your plan and say, no, you have built the house not according to the plan that you submitted, so I'm rejecting it. You cannot live in the house. Anyway, just to give an example, right? Now you guys understand, right? What different roles are and who don't change. Does a project champion change in this program?
No, sir.
Does a
No, sir.
owner change in the program? Program manager?
Sir, it can change.
So you in the middle of the road, you will say, I don't want this building contractor, and you will fire him.
No, sir. As you mentioned earlier, if a person is changed, then the thing is different, but the role will be the same.
But that's what I want you to be very clear. You have to make sure you hire the right program manager. This is very important. When you put a project in front of people and say, go do it, it's not just giving the vision. You cannot just be a sponsor and say, okay, I'll give you money, go do whatever. No, your job is also to make sure that you find the right program manager and give it to that person. Okay, just giving you some thoughts. So any project that you're going to be working on from now onwards, try to look around and see who is the champion, who is the owner, who is the program manager, who is the project manager, who is the team member, what role they play, when they play, and who is a non-team member. Okay. Any questions before I move to the next slide? Okay. Now, if you are going to build a house that needs a modular kitchen, who is a resource?
Interior designer.
Good, but there might be more than one resource. Yeah, interior designer. Good.
Plumber.
Plumber. Actually, you know what? I didn't think of that. Yeah, kitchen needs plumbing as well. Yeah, plumber could be a resource in modular kitchen designing. Okay. What's that?
Electrician.
Carpenter.
Carpenter, electrician. So you kind of understand, right? Who is a resource to build a modular kitchen? That's good. Now we go to the accountable person. Who is accountable? Who would you go and hold the collar and say, where is my modular kitchen?
The contractor.
Contractor.
Good. Good. And who is a consultant?
Architect.
Sorry?
Architect.
You said architect is a resource.
Also, but also whenever there is an issue in the design, we will consult architect and interior designer again.
His job is to design it for you. You're not consulting him. You are giving him a role. I want you to design a modular kitchen for me. Who do you consult?
Mother.
Owner.
There you go. Mother. Right. Mother is the beneficiary of this kitchen. So mother is going to have a lot of input. She's going to say, here's where I want the sink. Here's where I want the fridge. Here's where I want. Here is the color I want. She's going to be consulted for everything. Who needs to be informed?
Grandfather.
Why? He doesn't care if you have a modular kitchen or not. He gave the money and he walked away.
But sir, he will be the sponsor, so we have to consult with him whether how much money is required for the kitchen.
I give it to a point. Yeah. What's that? Repeat the answer, please. Daughter, why do you care? Daughter, maybe. Yeah, okay. But most of the time, the project manager or program manager needs to be informed, right? Contractor needs to be informed, but here in this case, he is the accountable person. So if there is a project manager, let's say, he needs to be informed. Your father needs to be informed, which is who is the beneficiary or one of the deciding authorities. So right. So you get the point, right? One project in the program is modular kitchen. And then now you said who is responsible, who is accountable, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. Likewise, every step in the project should have a clarity. Who is going to be the resource? Resource is the person who is actually going to do the job. Accountable, who needs to deliver that. If not, he or she is going to be held accountable. Like I said, the same example, building contractor cannot come and cry to you saying the architect is now on holiday, so I'm not able to do it, or the carpenter is not doing what I'm asking. No, that's not. I don't want to hear any stories, Mr. Contractor. That's why I contracted you. I'm giving you the money. I'm telling you what I want. Get it done. I don't need any excuses. That's what is called accountability. Contractor is not going to go and sweat his back to get the work done. He's going to hire the right architect. He's going to hire the right carpenter. He's going to hire the right plumber. Those are all resources to an architect. To a contractor. And he's going to consult with your mom. He's consult with you. Consult with the daughter, son, whoever he needs to consult. And then he'll keep your father informed, or like somebody rightly said, grandfather informed. You guys understand now how this thing works?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you guys can go and do other examples, but I'm not going to spend time there. And then let's move on to what I call power tools. Okay. When a project or a program needs to be managed, there are some tools people use which gives clarity, which helps to understand how the project is progressing or program is progressing, which helps to understand and force the team to think further and challenge every thought process. And then obviously you have to make sure that everything is done on a certain time frame or on a certain budget or whatnot. So these are called power tools. Charter. We talked about charter last time, right? There is something called milestone or resource planning. We touched the resource planning in the previous slide. What you're saying is who's going to do what? That's kind of resource planning. What type of resource I need. The only addition that you need to do is you just need to add the timing to that. Instead of RACI, I like to personally call it as TRACI, time. So if you go to the previous slide, now modular kitchen, add a time there, time when you need the modular kitchen to be started and finished. Then it becomes very clear, by this time I want the modular kitchen to be started and finished. And so for that I need these resources. For that I'm going to hold this person accountable. For that I'm going to consult with this person. For that I'm going to inform this person. So that becomes resource planning. When you need, who you need, and how long you need. Budget, same story. Modular kitchen, how much you wanted to spend on a modular kitchen. You need to plan that. Risks and countermeasures. And then what I call bowling chart. I'll talk about these things very quickly. Any questions so far?
So we can define milestone as on this particular, after this particular days, I want these things to be done. Like,
hold on. Yes, yes, I'm getting there. So we have few slides that talks about each of these tools. So you will have a good understanding. But yes, okay, what you have said is kind of what it means. Okay. All right. Charter. We talked about this last time. So think about the same example. House, building a house. You know who is the project manager, PM, who is the project owner, PO, who is a champion, etc. You know that, right? Now, what is the problem statement here? What can be a problem statement for building a house?
I want the construction to be done.
That's not a problem statement. That's your desire.
I'm in a need of a house with 3 BHK rooms and all. That thing. Describing what you need.
That's still need. That's not a problem.
Availability.
What?
Availability of resource.
Availability of resources. It's a problem within a project. I'm asking what is the problem charter for the entire program? Why you need to build a house at the first place? It should be the program statement, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what you need to.
So you are tired of living in a rental house which is not well furnished.
You're tired of living in a rental house. That's the problem statement. That could be one of the problem statements. There can be other statements. Like for example, my family grew. Now I don't have enough space. That could be a problem statement. Or I'd say my house is far away from my school or far away from my work, so I need to get closer to wherever I need to be every day. Or you can say I have some money and I don't want that money to sit idle and not make any more money. So I want to grow that money and invest it in something. So I'm going to build a house. So you remember, you see how a problem statement becomes very critical here. Because you need to understand why you want to build a house at the first place. Then you say, is it really that important? Is that problem statement that strong that now I'm going to go and build a house? Problem statement will tell is the project is even needed to be proceeded further or not. If you cannot articulate the problem statement in a justifiable way, guess what? Your grandfather is not going to give money. Your contractor is not going to be able to get it done on time. And you're not going to be able to find resources, and your mom and your sister or brother will not be happy. So problem statement is very important. Then scope. Give me a scope for this project. Be quick. We only have another 25 minutes. I need to cover a lot of ground here. What is the scope?
Sir, I can give that house on the rent, or I can live over there for a longer period of time.
But that's not scope. Scope of building a house. What is the scope of building a house? What you're saying is an alternate thought. Yeah, problem is I need a house because my rents are going up. Then on the other side, you're saying, yeah, I'm okay with that. I can live in a rented house. Then the project dies there. There is no need for you to build a house. What is the scope here?
Investing in real estate.
That is still a problem. Scope.
Comfort.
No, that's one of the aspects. What do you mean by comfort? Like you walk into the
Giving the
house.
property on rent. Giving the particular property on rent.
No, I'll give you an example quickly. Scope is I want this house to be a single story house, and I want this house to be a 3,000 square feet house. I want this house to be isolated and single home. I want this house to be, the specifics. So that you cannot say to the contractor that, oh, I wanted two stories. Oh, I wanted an apartment. I didn't want it a standalone house. Oh, I wanted 1,000 square feet. Things needs to be specified. That's called scope. And your scope is to build a house, not car parking. Understand? Like we talked about this. If you hire a cook, the scope of the cook is to make best food for you, not to drive your kid to the school. The scope changed now. I want you to take my kid and I want you to drive. No, that's not my scope. My scope is to cook food. Likewise, the scope should be the house needs to be like this, blah, 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 blah. That is the scope. Timeline. I want the house to be built by this time. Budget. I want to build a house by this much, within this much money. KPI is key performance indicator. We talked about that. How do you know the building house project is progressing very well? How do you keep track? Give me one example. How do you keep track of this program that house is being built on time, in progress, as per the plan?
Where the base of the house has been constructed on time, where the interior of the house has been done on time.
So there is some things like you say. I'm sorry, go ahead.
By visual inspection on the project, you can go and see.
So one key performance indicator is that I'm seeing that it was a ground 2 months ago. Now I see something. Now I see something, right? So key performance indicator here can be many things. And one of the ways I'll get to that. One of the ways is how much money you have spent. If you say the budget is 25 lakhs and if you spend 24 lakhs, you expect the house to be 90% done, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
You say you're building a 3,000. If you say you are building a 3,000 square feet house, you expect the square footage to grow from 0 to 3,000 from start of the project to the end of the project. Any given point of time, the square footage should keep on increasing, right? You can go by, I want to see how much the height of the building is being built. 0 to my 2-story house is going to be, I don't know, 25 feet. And so I'm going to track of that. Is my house growing 1 feet every month? These are all called key performance indicators that is going to show you is the project progressing or not. If it suddenly stops at 10 feet for 4 or 5 months, hold on, what's happening here? Why is my house not growing? That's what is key performance indicator. Team, we talked about that. And then assumptions. What is the assumption here? What can be an assumption for building a house?
There may be some days the bad weather may cause workers can't work.
So that's an assumption that you're going to finish it on time, right? That no such thing is going to stop you, or pandemic or environmental impact is going to stop you from constructing or keeping the work non-stop. So that's an assumption. Another assumption. Give me quick.
The engineer we have selected will perform his best.
Exactly. He's the right resource, or he's the right talent. Yes. Another example.
Over budget.
Yes, I'm going to finish it under budget. That's another assumption. Another assumption.
Quality of work.
The design which I have selected for the building.
Can you repeat that?
The design which.
Yeah. Assumption is that yes, the design is going to be looking good when it becomes real, right? There are a lot of assumptions, right? So now you have to put all these things in one page. Charter. Charter will talk about all these things in one page. You don't have to make the charter 10-page charter. You can, but that's the point I'm trying to make here is my house is problem statement. I don't want to live in I don't want to live in an apartment because it's too small for me. So I need a bigger house. That's your problem statement. Scope. It needs to be 3,000 square feet, 2 stories. Timeline. I only have 6 months. Budget. I only have 25 lakhs. KPI. Blah, 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 blah. We talked about team. This person is the contractor. This person is blah, 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 blah. Assumptions. I'm going to be able to build a 2-story house, 3,000 square feet within 25 lakhs. All the put them all in one page charter, and then you can give it to anybody in your family and have them read it, and they'll say, okay, I know what you're trying to do, right? If you give the charter to anybody in the family, whether the people in the family or outside friends and family, whoever takes a look at the charter, they exactly know what you're going to do. And that's what charter should do, is to give that clarity to everybody. Why, when, how much, how are you going to measure, what's in, what's out of the scope, who are the team members, and what are the assumptions. Project should have these things. It's a must. Okay, now go to the next tool, milestone planning. Okay, now what is a milestone, by the way?
Achieving a target within the time.
Achieving a target within a time. Is it not a project goal? Completing the goal?
No, sir, not the whole project. Like 25% work is done on the particular time, 50% work is done. Then we can say that 1/4 milestone. I have completed this milestone.
Somewhat closer. Anybody else want to give it a try? What is a milestone?
So completing a single project within a program.
Yeah, which is yes, that's a milestone for a program. Yes, absolutely right. I wanted to finish a project in a particular time so that my program gets done. So that means your milestone is project A done by this time. Yes, exactly.
Sir, this can also be related with the budget also, sir. The project has been completed with the least budget that we has assumed earlier.
That's goal. That's assumption that I'm going to finish it, or that's a aggressive goal. But milestone.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, milestone can be for suppose for a building a house, first making a boundaries. Achieving that first step can be a milestone in the project.
Yes, that can be one of the milestone. One of the milestone is putting a boundary. But guys, even before that, I'll ask you one question. Don't you think buying the land is a milestone?
Yes, sir. Actually, deciding the area will be also a milestone.
That's it. When I decide where I'm going to buy the land, that's a milestone. Then second milestone is I today registered the land in my mother's name. Second milestone. Third milestone, I have kickstarted the construction activity. So milestone means a point in time when something is done or achieved or completed. It's a point, not a range. It's a point. If you have 6-month project, then you say day 27, I want to nail down the land. Day 55, I want to kickstart construction. Day 110, I want to finish the basement. Day 155, I want to finish the roof. So a point in time when something is done or achieved. That means it talks about two things. What? That is the something. And then when, which is the point in time. It talks about what and when. It doesn't tell you how. It doesn't tell you why. That's not milestone planning. Milestone planning is like, I'm going to do, no, it is what and when. That's it, purely. What is a deliverable? Deliverable is a decision that I'm going to buy a house or buy a land in this area. That's a decision. That decision is a deliverable. When? By day 32. what I always encourage my team is to come up with the who also. When you do a milestone planning, I want to decide where I'm going to buy the house by this time, and I would like that decision to come out from my father. That's so it takes into account the who aspect also. It's father's accountability to go talk to grandfather, go convince mother, go find a whatever that it takes to find where the land needs to be bought or purchased. Sorry, that's father's responsibility or accountability. I'm going to hold that person accountable. That's why I said A. My father has to come up with a decision by the day 32. You guys understand now what is a milestone planning?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how do you convert this? You can talk all day long about this, but that's not how project function. Project works. It's a very serious business. Something wrong there. Okay. A slide is repeated there. I don't know why. Milestone planning. So let's give an example. When housewarming function is done, that's a milestone, right? When housewarming function is done. So in this case, you said my project is 60 days or 6 months. That means that's day 180. Now I'm asking you guys, tell me what are all the deliverables of that milestone? I said the when part. Now tell me the what part.
When I'm ready to shift.
No,
when the house is ready. When the house is ready.
Don't. Yes, house is ready. When the house. So for the one of the deliverables is I need the house ready for housewarming function. So you need the house. Okay. What else? What are the other deliverables?
We need
all the interior work is done.
The finishing should be completed.
Finishing should be completed. Yes. Next.
Inspection of the house should be authorized by the inspector.
Absolutely. Inspection needs to be completed and inspected and approved. Yes.
All connections should be done, like electricity.
All connections should be done. Yes. So you see how a milestone is a point in time for which the 5 different things that you said are deliverables that needs to be done before that, right? And now who is responsible for having all the connections to be done? Who is responsible for all the, sorry, I take back the responsible. Who is accountable for all the connections to be connected? Who is accountable for all the inspection to be done? Who is accountable for painting and whatever the thing that you guys said is to be done? Who? You have some names in your mind, right?
Owner,
Project manager.
Father,
exactly.
Father and mother.
Worker, constructor.
Exactly. So now what you do is you convert these things into a chart. M and D. Milestone 1 is when housewarming ceremony is going to happen. A is the accountable person. Who is accountable for housewarming?
Owner.
Owner, your father. Then I'm giving an example here as a January, February, March, April, May, June as a 6-month time period. And you say, I want to get the housewarming ceremony done on June 30th. So that's a milestone, a point in time. Then in order to get that milestone, I have to have the house ready. That's a deliverables in the second line. I have to have all connections. I have to have inspections. I have to have painting done. I have to have whatever invitations given to given or distributed or invited to friends and families. I have, and what are the other things that you need for housewarming ceremonies? All those things are going to be in the deliverable section. And for each of them, there's going to be somebody accountable. For each of them, there's going to be a point where you need to get done, or when it starts and when it finishes. Inspection. It may start. You have to do one inspection in January because they need to inspect the land. You need to do one inspection in April because they need to inspect the roof, and then you have to do one inspection in June when the house is finished. So then everywhere you say, here's where I need to do. It starts here, it ends here, and the status is green because I have done 3 out of the 4 inspection already done. Right? So any point of time in a project, you look at the milestone planning and see whether it's going good or not. So the way we do in real life is like this. Milestone, contractor, to be done in June. Status is green. I don't have to worry about that. Painter, carpenter, contractor. So you look milestone. That's why I put a X on the milestone. It's a point in time, a day. Some actions happen, starts, ends, and then status. Electrician is dragging his feet. Not everything is connected. Lights are not on. It's red. It's supposed to be done in February, but he's still working on it in June. This is what is called milestone planning. You need to have when you're going to be starting your work, when you're going to be finishing your work, what is the milestone, and give a status symbol. And the status symbol has to be updated every week, every month, every whatever time period it is for you that you meet and talk about the progress. If it's every day, it's every day. If it's every month, every week, every quarter. This is all I care about when people show me your milestone planning. What's the status? Are things going properly or not? Time on the top, accountable person in one column. What is the milestone? What are the deliverables? What's the status? When it starts, when it finishes. Understand? Sometimes people call this as Gantt chart. Have you heard Gantt chart before?
Yes,
have you guys heard about the Gantt chart?
Yes, sir. Production planning.
Yeah, so somewhat in the same thought process. It's called milestone planning.
So status chart, we can also call it as a status chart.
What's that?
Status chart, like what is the current status of the particular.
Yeah, you can. So it can be green, yellow, red, or green means it's on track, no problem. Yellow means there are minor, issues, but not a problem. It's not going to be a showstopper that you cannot have housewarming ceremony on June 30th. Red is, man, you're going to have a problem. You can have it like that. Or somebody says status means started, not started, in progress, completed. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving an example. I'm a visual person. I like traffic light signals. So I go by green, yellow, red. That's how I operate. But if you think I don't like that, I wanted to have it as a started, not started, in progress, yet to start, done, completed, however you want to. It's just an example. You don't have to say milestone planning means it has to look like this. It's just a way of showing how it is done and what information is in that. Okay. All right. Now go to the next one. Budget planning. Of course, to build a house, you need money. How much money you want? I said, in passing by, I made a comment that 25 lakhs. When? You're not going to give the 25 lakhs to the contractor on day one. Or you're not expected to have 25 lakhs on day one. Certain point of time you have more money. You need to have money in hand. Certain point of time you need to have less money in hand. Certain point of time you don't need money at all. And then for certain things you have to plan. Like how much maximum I can spend on modular kitchen. How much maximum I can spend on paint. How much maximum I can spend on floor. How much maximum I can spend on carpentry. All those things have to be planned, right? Every maximums. And then you see when you're going to need that money. When I purchase the land, I need money. Then when I award the contract to the contractor, I need money. And then when I get to a certain point, I need money. So you plan that. What items, when it is going to be needed, and what's the total amount that you're going to spend. So I'm just giving you, I went by quarters, but you can go by month, week, day, whatever you wanted to go in the timeline. So I need 10 lakhs here. I need 1 lakh here. I need 0.5 lakh here. I need 7 point, and then you add the total, and the total should add to 25 lakhs. If not, you are in trouble. So plan it. You plan the time. Now you plan the money. Any questions?
So here YTD means year to date, right?
Year to date. So sometimes projects can go multiple years, right? So you start in 1 year and it's a 3-year project. That means I want to spend. So let's say we spend $50,000 on a project. Then I say I want to spend $25,000 in year 1, $20,000 in year 2, and then $5,000 in year 3. Then I need to make sure that the $25,000 that I want to spend in year 1, am I going to spend on December 31st? or am I going to spend it on January 1st? Or I'm going to spend $2,000 every month? And why? Because it's not just how much and when, why? Because I'm going to run 5 trials in April. Each trial is $1,000, so it's going to cost me $5,000. Or I'm going to have this product tested outside in a lab, and the lab charges me $2,000, so it's going to cost me $2,000 in April. Time, how much, and why? You have to have clarity. This is why you have to sit and plan a project. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to build a house, let's go. Lot more work goes into before you decide, you even start laying the plan. Lot more work's going to. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah meaning question, or yeah meaning okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Then next is risks and countermeasures. Do you guys all agree that every project has a risk? Okay, now I come back. Shakshi, did I remember the name correctly?
Yes, sir.
So this is where your point comes in. Every project has a risk. Why? Why do you think every project has a risk?
So there may be anything happening or any circumstances can come that which is not predictable. So every project has a risk that it may work or it may not work. Like something may happen. Like we may not get the resources, or the budget is or the money may be less we will be getting. So every project has a risk, I think so.
That's only half of the answer. Can anybody try? Why there is a risk in a project?
Sir, every coin has a two sides. Like success and failure is a part of a project. If success is not your part, then of course failure is.
There was somebody else who was trying to speak before you. Whoever that person is, can you speak
Hello,
up?
sir.
Go ahead.
It can be unpredictable circumstances, like no one was knowing pandemic situation will come.
Mm-hmm.
This
so
can be one factor.
What all of you are saying is, I had a certain assumption in my mind when I started a project that I'm going to get it done by this time, or I'm going to get it done by this much money, or I'm going to have these people available at the time that I needed. So a lot of assumptions go in when you start a project, right? You agree? Because what everybody
Yes,
said
sir.
is, oh, something can happen. That means you have assumed something will not happen. So assumptions are made in the start of the project. And I should have mentioned that in the charter. Sorry, I mentioned, let me go back to the charter. Where is charter? Ah, there you go. It's there. Oh, I did not forget. Assumptions. What assumptions have you made? Now you go and look at it. Is my assumption under risk now? Or is my assumption wrong? And that's what is called understanding. Because we risk. Nobody can predict the future. And project is future. So you assume certain things. I'm going to be alive. I'm going to have this money. I'm going to have this person. There's not going to be any pandemic. There's not going to be any calamity. All these are assumptions. And when the assumptions are wrong, it's called project risks. So now let's go to the example of this house building. What are the risks to this house building project or program?
If owner is died,
house may collapse.
House may collapse. All right.
So owner may be died in between.
Oh
during
man, you guys are so pessimistic though. House may collapse, owner may die. Okay, good. Okay, good. But those are all valid risks. Okay, the assumption is owner is going to be alive when the house is built, and the assumption is that the house is going to stand up. Right, good. Any other assumptions? Any other risks?
There's no approval
Availability of resources.
Availability of resources. Okay. Anybody else?
There's no approval by the inspector.
No approvals. There was a female voice. Go ahead.
So maybe the budget that we have decided is not maximum or is not suitable for whatever the things we have thought.
Exactly. So you said 25 million, your budget was 25 lakhs, and now it's going to be 35 lakhs. right?
Hello.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So there are some fluctuations in rate of raw material costs.
It's an overall budget of the budget of the project, right? 25,
So,
35.
hello, sir.
Yeah.
So a contractor may
Sir, the
fraud.
availability
Availability
of
of
land, sir, at
land.
land
Yeah.
at the
I'm
first
assuming
stage.
that I'm going to get the land. Yes. Availability of the land. Yes. And then nobody talked about time. Man, you guys need to take time as a resource. Please consider time as a resource. Time is very important. Everybody assumed that the house was going to be built in 6 months. What if it takes 13 months?
Sir, choice
Right?
of correct engineer or contractor.
Yeah,
Contractor sometimes may
availability of
fraud.
resources. That's availability of resources. I'm not able to find the right contractor. That's a big risk. And suddenly there's another risk. Your grandfather changed his mind. He said, no, I'm not going to give you that money. Right? You're assuming that your grandfather, he called me last night and said he's going to give me money and go and build a house. And now he says halfway through, no, I changed my mind. I'm not going to give it to you. What are you going to do? Go shoot the grandfather? Some of you may be like, yeah, I may. No, I'm not talking that. But those are all the risks to the project. Now, let me ask you this. What is the probability that your grandfather is going to change his mind halfway through?
50-50.
Hmm?
50-50, sir.
50-50. Man, you have to talk to your grandfather more often then. uh, Likelihood is low is what I was trying to say. Right? Likelihood that my grandfather said, I'm going to give you money to go build a house, and then 6 months later, when I started the building house, he's going to reverse that decision. Likelihood is very low. Giving a hypothetical example, right? Do you guys all agree with me that no, it's a risk, but my grandfather, I know my grandfather is not going to be changing his mind on me when I'm halfway through the project. So likelihood of that happening is very low. But if that happens, even with low likelihood, that doesn't mean it'll never happen. It will happen. What is the severity to the project?
So we may raise the loan, funds through loan.
I'm asking what is the severity? If your grandfather halfway through the project decided not to provide you the funds, what is the severity to the project?
So it may cost you everything you have.
What is that?
It may cost all the savings or all the amount you have. Like if you still want to complete your project.
You may not be able to complete your project. Okay, that's one risk. Anybody else want to say what is the severity?
Sir, in case if you want to complete the project, you have to spend whole your life savings in that. Then that will be the severity, like you will lose all your savings.
So you will lose all your savings. That's one severity. Anybody else wants to give it a try?
Sir, if the project is in the middle of the means if it is in middle, then it will cost you in the loss. Like you have to pay.
Yeah,
You're
huge
not going
loss.
to go ahead.
It's a severe loss. You know, right? You will lose your savings. Go ahead.
So the most important thing, there will be psychological loss that even a person from home has break the trust.
Yes,
So
emotional stress, right? Yeah, I understand. So those are all severity, right? Even though for a risk that grandfather may not give me or change the decision, for a risk that has low likelihood of occurrence, but if it occurs, the severity is very high. It's devastating, right? Low likelihood, but man, that happens, it's the end of the project. Now what you do? How do you mitigate this risk from happening?
So there might be two options that we should convince our grandfather or second option that we have to borrow some money from the market.
Okay, convincing is after. So convincing is after your grandfather decided that he will not provide the money. So, but I'll take that as a countermeasure. Okay, I'll take that as a countermeasure and then go to the bank as a countermeasure. But those are all things that you're saying when and if he decides. But I'm saying before you even start the project, you need to think of these things.
So we can make sure that you get the amount before you start the project.
So don't you think that you need to be nice to your grandfather moment he says until the project is done? Don't piss him off.
Yeah, you have to be so close to him that you don't be
Countermeasure is better be on his bedside. That's one countermeasure. The other countermeasure is go and make sure that you have a bank loan application applied and be ready. The other countermeasure is make sure you have enough jewels and other savings that you can dump on the project and get the project completed, right? So those are all certain things that you keep in mind as countermeasures. If my grandfather decides to reverse the decision on me, then here are the things I'm going to do. Do you guys follow me? So that's what is called.
Yes, sir.
That's what is called countermeasures or risk planning. So OTAPIF, OTAPIF. Do you know what that means?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. I was expecting somebody to say no sooner than later. On time, as promised, in full. That means any project should be done on time, should be finished as promised, and should be finished in full. So a risk can be, I cannot do it on time. A risk can be, I cannot meet the promises. A risk can be, I didn't do it in full. So that is what is OTAPIF. Risk can be to any one of these aspects. Timeline, budget, resources can change. So identify the risk. What we did a minute ago is an example of identifying a risk that my grandfather may change his mind. What is the likelihood of that occurring? We know him. He's a trustworthy person in our family. He's not going to do such horrible things to me. So the likelihood of that occurring is very low. Or my father was never a best son for my father and grandfather. So, man, I think he's going to do that the moment we start the project. Then the likelihood is high. Then severity. If he changes his decision, you said it is very high. It's devastating. It's going to stop the project. It's going to drain all my savings. I'm going to end up with a lot of losses. You better be prepared. When the likelihood is high and severity is high, you better have a countermeasure. Medium high, you better have a countermeasure. Medium, you better have a countermeasure. Low, don't worry. So that's how you should think. If the likelihood is low, the severity is low, I don't necessarily need to have a backup plan. If the likelihood is low, but the severity is high, you better have a backup plan. If the likelihood is medium, and the severity is medium, you better have a backup plan. So that's how you need to look at it. High, backup plan. Low, no backup plan. So step 4 is identifying countermeasures. How am I going to make sure that doesn't happen at the first place? That's one countermeasure. The second countermeasure is, okay, if that happens, what are my plan B's and plan C's? Once you have did all this experiment or understanding and planning, go back and redo this again. Okay, now I made sure there is a loan application. So now what are the risks to the loan application? Oh, loan can be rejected. Oh, what is the likelihood of loan can be rejected? It's very low because I have good what do you call job, job. I know the bank manager, so the likelihood of bank rejecting my loan is very low. Severity, it's not going to be that big of a deal because I'm still trusting my father to give me money. So my second plan, if it, then I have another bank because I have 3 banks in lined up. So if this bank rejects, then I have another bank, something like that. So make sure that your countermeasure risk assessment is low. And do this throughout the project. Every time you get to a certain stage of the project, look at it. What are the risks? What are the likelihood of that risk occurring? What happens if that occurs? What are my countermeasures? Okay. This is how you do it. I was going to walk you guys through, but then I said, I'm not going to show it to you and then I'll do it. Now, what you need to do here is you also have to have a tracing. You cannot say countermeasures and then walk away. Somebody have to do it in a certain time. There's another example I said, countermeasure. Okay, if your grandfather says he's not going to give me the money that he owed me, I'm going to reduce the square footage of the house. Instead of 3,000 square foot, I'm going to build a 1,000 square foot. Change the location from a posh location to a not so posh location. A lot of things. Just giving you an example of how to think for countermeasures. Okay. Our last tool is bowling chart. I think I covered everything. And bowling chart is, we touched on this KPI tracking. How is my house being built? My plan is that I have 6 months. The house is going to take 20 feet. So for every month, I would like to see 1 feet grow. And then you compare growth versus actual, or plan versus actual. That's one way to look at the progress. What it'll do is if the growth stops somewhere, then you know, hey, why is it stopping? Early warnings, early signs. You understand what is the trend, and then you can take countermeasures. The countermeasures to a project activity is called action plan. What you do countermeasure early on is called risk assessment. What is the risk to the program and how am I going to mitigate the risks? But then when the project is happening and some unfortunate things happen and you have to now make changes to the budget, make changes to the resource, make changes to the timeline, those are all called action plan. No matter what, you still have to go and look for delivering the project on time as promised in full. That means, what am I going to do now? It's called action plan. I go back to the light example, the traffic light example, red. I should be 4 feet high and the month 3, but I'm now only 1 feet high. What am I going to do to make it 5 feet next month? What is my action plan? 4 versus the plan of 4 versus actual of 1. There's a gap of 3. That means it's a red. It's not progressing as I originally thought. I need to act upon it. That's what is called action plan. That's what I say red. If you have a red, you better have a plan as to how you are going to keep up and come to month 5 with 5 feet. If you don't have, then don't better come to the meeting. I mean, I'm talking in the real life when we have a project update meetings. And this is how you look at it. So I'm just giving a spend. Spend is a metric, right? 25 lakh is my project cost, and I'm going to spend money. So the way I'm anticipating to spend money is in the plan section. In the plan, I'm saying January, I'm going to spend 1 lakh. February, I'm going to spend 3 lakh. March, I'm going to spend 3 lakh, blah, 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 blah. And then towards the end of the contract, I have to give money to a lot of people. So I spend 10 lakhs. Now I'm here in February, I've spent already 5 lakhs against the budget or plan of 3 lakhs, 2 lakhs over budget for that month. You better have a plan as to why. And then you better have a plan to how are you going to reduce it to the right level next month. This is how you progress. This is how you keep. And JOP, can anybody say what JOP means? Or have you ever heard of this? Am I talking to myself? Are you guys on the call? Is my internet connected?
No, sir.
Okay. So JOP is jump off point. When you start the project, how much money you have already spent? 0. When you start the project, how many floors you have completed? 0. That means start a point. So imagine this is a multi-year project. Then when you go into year 2, your jumping off point would be 25 lakhs. Your jumping off point would be, I've already built 2 floors. So now my goal is to build another 25 lakhs or another 2 floors. So for multi-year projects, you need to look at the jump off point or starting point. And then you look at how many, it's just an example. You can keep you can say square footage per built and say I'm 3,000 square foot, 6 months. So 500 square feet every month. Have I completed 500 square feet? If not, what's my plan? This is how you do. I think I covered everything. We went over a little bit. Any questions so far what we have covered today?
Sir, in the previous slide, there is a term named as action plan, which you said that it's a action plan which we do when we face any problem or issue regarding our targeted plans, right? So, but sir, it should be mentioned as the response plan because you are responding to a particular issue related in your project. Because action is the already thing which you have planned, right?
It's I'll explain this in a different way. What are you going to action to change the course of this project? Action. The response can be, can be immediate, can be not well thought out. There's volunteer response, involuntary response. The response is not the right word because you may be acting. But the action plan is you sit and understand what's going on and how you are going to fix it permanently. So what you're going to action to change the course and to catch up and make changes. So that's why people call it action plan. It's English. I mean, if you want to call it response plan, you can call it response plan. But
no, sir. But I mean to ask, is it if and then thing, or is it like depends on the situation? Like you are keeping a plan before the what we said prevention. Like if this thing happens, then we will do this. Is it that, or it's just like if
no. So that's countermeasures, right? If my grandfather didn't pay me money, I'm going to do this. That's countermeasures. But you go to now. I'm saying here, you say you spend 5 lakhs in the place of 3 lakhs. Okay. Why and what you're going to do to keep the spend under control next month. That is what is action plan. The action plan is I was supposed to get only, if you look at, and this is why I had this example. If you look at the plan for floors, look at the plan. I was supposed to finish the number 1 floor in March, but in actual, I actually finished it in February. The reason why it is red is I am early on the process, which is a good thing. But bank is going to release money or my grandfather is going to release money only on a certain frequency. So I cannot overspend my money. I have to wait for the time. So I'm going to now slow down the construction process for the next month so that I don't spend too much money. My action plan, my why an action plan. Why? I was going very fast and I finished the floor ahead of schedule. So I spend more money. Okay, that's a good thing, but the bad thing is you don't have fund coming that fast. So slow down. Okay, my action plan is I'm going to now only construct 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week until I catch up and get more cash in the end of March. And then April, I'm going to go back to normal 5 days a week. That's your action plan. Understood?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
So these are all things that you do when you are in the project. Countermeasures are before you work on the project, what can go wrong? And what am I going to do when it goes wrong in that way? Okay. All right, guys. Anything else?
Hello, sir.
Yep.
So, like these projects can be under any big business. So, while we take into consideration of the startup things, like so the same things can be applied there also.
Any project, any program. So I'll give you an example. What is time now in India? 7:45.
Yes.
You're gonna make a dinner now. Let's say I want dinner at 9 o'clock. That's a project. 9 o'clock is your timeline. And okay, dinner means what? Just if I go buy a pack of bread and apply jam and eat it, it's done. No, I want 3-course meal. I want an appetizer, I want an entree, I want a dessert. So then that's the scope. Okay, how much money you have? I have 2,000 rupees. Okay, how many people are there to get you that 3-course meal before 9 o'clock? Because you only have 60 minutes. Oh, you know what? I have 5 people. I'm going to have these 3 people work on the appetizer. I'm going to have these 3 people work on the my entree, and I'm going to have these 2 guys go and get some stuff for dessert. So you have a resource planning. Okay, now you are going to say, okay, you start. I'm specifying you the appetizer is this. I'm specifying you the entree is this. I'm specifying you dessert is this. Go. So now suddenly a dinner became a project. Timeline is 9 o'clock. Budget is 2,000 rupees. Resources are 10 people. And scope is 3-course meal. And entree is this. And appetizer is this. Dessert is this. And if the dinner is served at 9 o'clock, then you have done the project on time, as promised, in full. What can go wrong on minute 1? What if I don't have enough time? Okay, bring a couple more people from neighbors. What if I don't have enough money? Then reduce the appetizer from this expensive appetizer to this appetizer. What if I, whatever, right? So you think of risk, resources, and whatnot, and they say, okay, every 15 minutes I want some progress. That's your timeline goal. Who is going to do that? That's your Tracy chart. You can anything, you can convert it into a project because you have set of goals that you need to achieve. You have set of people that's going to help you achieve that goal. You have set of time within which you need to get it done, and you have set of money that you have to spend to get there. Time, money, resource, people. It's all resource. Time, money, people, goal, scope. Anything in life can be converted into a project, and you can manage it accordingly.
Okay, sir.
And use these principles in your. So I think you may have started your project for your what do you call it? Thesis, right? Thesis or dissertation thesis for final year. Use these principles. Make sure you as a team clearly have your problem statement, clearly have your charter, clearly have team roles. Who's going to be the project manager? Who's going to be what? There's nothing wrong in not being a project manager. Everybody wants to be a manager. Okay, then you have to be ready to be accountable and blamed for not having the project done on time. Be ready to be that. You just cannot say, I'm going to be the project manager. I'm going to delegate everybody. I'm going to tell who needs to do what. But I don't want to be blamed because somebody didn't do their job. No, if you are the project manager, the title project manager means you get to be blamed. Use these principles, practice them. It is not easy to do them in everyday life. Even after being in the industry for 15 years, I still struggle with project management. I still struggle with resource management. I still struggle with anticipating risks. I still struggle with coming up with countermeasures. I still struggle with keeping up with the budget. It's not easy. You have to make sure you understand these principles early on in your career, and not only understanding, you need to master the skills. Project management is a huge skill. People just underestimate. Okay, anything else?
Hello, sir.
Yep.
Sir, actually, I have one question from the last lecture.
Go ahead.
Sir, the time when we were discussing about the business case, we were discussing about the stage and gate method process. In that, the very first was that of project charter, then development, validation, and all. So in development and validation, we discussed that if there is a problem that we are not able to achieve something, we go back to the previous stage. So in that project charter, is it necessary to make those changes every time we go back to the gate?
Your project goal has not changed. how you achieve the project and what activities that needs to be done to get there has changed. You're still building house. You have not come back and said, nope, I changed my plan. I'm going to now buy a flat. That's an entirely different charter, right? If you come back and say, oh, I'm not going to buy build an individual house, I'm going to buy a flat. Or you can say, I'm just going to go buy a previously built house. That's a completely different charter.
Okay. Okay.
But if you change the mind or something happens where you have to make changes to the activities, then you go back and make changes to the previous stage. But your overall goal, as I need a 3,000 square feet, 2-story building, standalone house, should still be the same.